Solving absolute value equations. Example 1. The quantity of the absolute value of 2x plus 5 equals 13. Step 1. Isolate the absolute value on one side of the equation. Step 1 is complete. Step 2. Is the number on the other side of the equation negative? No. Step 3. Write two equations without absolute values. Solve the equations. The two equations are 2x plus 5 equals 13 or 2x plus 5 equals negative 13. I will now solve the equations. I need to isolate my variable. I should move away from my variable 2 and 5. To move the 5, I will subtract 5 from each side. My 5's will cancel out on the left side, and I'm left with 2x equals 8. I still need to isolate my variable. To do this, I divide both sides by 2. 2x divided by 2 is x. 8 divided by 2 is 4. One solution is x equals 4. For my next equation, I followed the same steps. Isolate your variable by subtracting 5 from both sides. And then dividing both sides by 2. This leaves you with x equals negative 9. I now need to check my solutions. To check your solutions, you will plug in your values for x into your original equation. The absolute value of the quantity 2x plus 5 equals 13. We'll check this first with x equals 4. Plug in 4 wherever you see an x in your equation. We work our absolute values first. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 5 is 13. The absolute value of 13 is 13. This shows us that we are correct. We need to check our second solution. Now we will plug in negative 9 into our original equation. Two times negative 9 is negative 18. Negative 18 plus 5 is negative 13. The absolute value for negative 13 is positive 13, so we are correct. Our solution set is 4 and negative 9. Example 2. 5 times the absolute value of the quantity x plus 2 plus 10 equals 25. Step 1. Isolate the absolute value. I can see that on the left side of my equal sign, I have the absolute value. The only thing that should be on this side is my absolute value. So I need to move away from this, the 5 and the 10. My addition sign shows me that I can move the 10 by subtracting 10 from both sides. When I subtract 10 from the left side, they cancel out, and you're left with 5 times the absolute value of the quantity x plus 2, and on the right side, we're left with 15. I continue to isolate the absolute value. 5 times the absolute value of the quantity of x plus 2 tells me to divide both sides by 5. My 5's will cancel out, and I'm left with the absolute value of the quantity x plus 2 equals 3. Step 2. Is the number on the other side of the equation negative? No. Step 3. Write two equations without absolute values. Solve the equations. My first equation will be x plus 2 equals 3, and my second equation will be x plus 2 equals negative 3. I will now solve each equation. To solve each equation, I need to isolate my variables. Subtract 2 from both sides. The 2's will cancel out, and you're left with, on your first equation, x equals 1. The 2's cancel out on your second equation, and you're left with x equals negative 5. Your last step is to check. To check, you use your original equation. 5 times the quantity of x plus 2, the absolute value of the quantity x plus 2, plus 10 equals 25. And we'll first check for x equals 1. We're going to plug in 1 back into our original equation. 1 plus 2 is 3. The absolute value of 3 is 3. Three times 5 is 15. 15 plus 10 is 25. This shows us that we were correct. To check our solution for the second equation, I again use my original equation. 5 times the absolute value of the quantity x plus 2 plus 10 equals 25. This time I'll plug in negative 5. Negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3. The absolute value of negative 3 is 3. 5 times 3 is 15. 15 plus 10 is 25. Again, we were correct. Our solution set is 1 or negative 5. Example 3. The absolute value of the quantity 2x minus 8 equals 0. Step 1. Isolate the absolute value on one side of the equation. Step 1 is complete. Step 2. Is the number on the other side of the equation negative? No. Step 3. Write two equations without absolute values. Solve the equations. In this case, however, there will only be one equation because 0 cannot be negative. So my equation is 2x minus 8 equals 0. We'll solve this equation by isolating our variable. To do this, I will need to undo multiplication and subtraction. Start off by undoing subtraction by adding 8 to both sides. My 8's will cancel out, and I'm left with 2x equals 8. My variable is still not by itself, so I divide both sides by 2 to get x equals 4. To check myself, I use my original equation, and we're going to plug in 4 wherever we see an x. The absolute value of the quantity, 2 times 4 minus 8, should equal 0 if we're correct. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 minus 8 is 0. And the absolute value of 0 is 0. So we are correct. Your solution set is 4. Example 4. The absolute value of the quantity 8 minus 4x plus 10 equals 5. Step 1. Isolate the absolute value on one side of the equation. The only thing that needs to be on this side is my absolute value. So I need to move the 10. To do this, I subtract 10 from both sides. My 10s will cancel out and leave you with the absolute value of the quantity 8 minus 4x equals negative 5. My absolute value is now by itself, so I move to step 2. Is the number on the other side of the equation negative? Yes. There is no solution.